Welcome to the summer presentation of Introduction to Social Welfare, Social Work 106. My name is Bill Galic, and I will be your instructor through the summer session. This is an accelerated presentation of this course, so the material which is normally presented to you over the course of 15 weeks, or 16 if you include the week's break, is being presented to you over the course of 10 weeks. Actually 11 weeks, because we also have a week's break during the summer session. My contact information is here for you, both my university address and my home email address. The university does prefer that we communicate through the alaska.edu email address, but I can also assure you that my Comcast email is private in that no one else lives in the home here with me, and so no one else will be accessing that email. So you can contact me at either one if you need to reach me. I do see the Comcast email more frequently and more regularly than the alaska.edu email. And so if you are pressed for time or kind of in a hurry, please feel free to use the Comcast email address. My home phone number, both my cell and also my home number. You'll notice the area code 260 for my home number is not an Alaska area code, and that's because I live in Northeast Indiana. I moved from Alaska some years ago. If you look at my bio in the course menu, this will all be explained to you. In Indiana, I'm 4 hours ahead of you, and so please keep that in mind when you're reaching me. If you're working late at night, say 11 o'clock, and you have a question and you want to call me, remember it's 3 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm probably not going to be very coherent and to be able to answer your question very well. So keep in mind, I'm 4 hours ahead of you here in the Eastern time zone. You'll notice that my cell number is an Alaska cell number, and that's also a number that, of course, accepts text messages, although, again, the university has asked us not to rely upon text messaging for communicating with students, so just FYI. I have been working in the social work field really all my adult life. I got a bachelor's in social work back in the mid-1970s and went back to school after 8 years in the field to get my master's in social work. I have worked continuously in the field until my retirement from the field itself in 2014. And a year later, I moved down to Indiana from Alaska. I have been teaching steadily for over 30 years for the university, mostly in those years as an adjunct, but over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been a member of the School of Social Work faculty as an assistant professor. My work experience involves a number of different areas that I think prepares me well for teaching this course, and that includes a couple of years working in public assistance and public welfare programs, certification programs in Florida in the 1970s, 4 years in child protection in Central Florida, and then another 8 years in residential care and treatment in Florida. I moved to Alaska in 1987, spent over 7 years working at outpatient mental health as a therapist, and then transferred to the Office of Children's Services. It was then Division of Family and Youth Services, and supervised the child protection units on the Kenai Peninsula for the next 19 years. And then I retired and moved down here. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been teaching on a part-time basis, although right now it's almost full-time, since the early 1990s. And so I bring quite a bit of experience to the course, and can probably address different issues you might have about what it's like working in the social work field. And I encourage you to contact me, either communicate with me through the journal, which is going to be available to you in the course, or by emailing me simply or phoning me whenever you have a question. My office hours are Mondays, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Alaska time. But of course, I'm available to meet with you over FaceTime or through a Zoom or any of the video programs that we now have available to us. And so I'd be happy to meet with you at any time if you just contact me and let me know when you want to meet. You don't have to restrict yourself to my office hours. You have 3 books that you're going to be working out of for this course. This is the primary textbook, which is the New History of Social Welfare. The 7th edition, which was out in 2013, is still the most recent edition. I've begun to believe they're never going to produce another edition. I don't know if Dr. Day has left the field or has died or what, but there's no new edition of this being produced. But it is such an excellent text. And the text itself takes us deeply into the Obama administration. The Trump and Biden administrations since are not included in this textbook, but we'll be talking about the impact of those two administrations throughout the course as well. So you're not going to lose anything by this textbook being a few years older. And it is, as I said, a very excellent book. The course itself is designed around the layout of this book, so you'll notice. So you'll be working your way pretty steadily through this book while doing some other readings as well. Dr. Day is a feminist writer, and so you'll notice that she has some very strong views, which are very timely. And if they trouble you, stick with it, because you'll find over a period of time you're going to understand exactly what she's saying. The next text is not going to look like this probably, unless you manage to get a hold of a used copy of the 4th edition. The publisher has stopped producing this book with a cover like this. They produce it on an on-demand basis. And so when you get the book, if you get a hard copy book through the bookstore link or through Amazon, it's very possible that you'll get a book that looks sort of like a workbook. But if you get the official 4th edition book, you'll find no matter what it looks like, it is the entire text. And so don't be worried about that. The publishers really want you to get the E version of the textbook, and that's, I think, what this is all about. But I prefer having a book in my hand, and it's easier in my eyes. And as some of my students have told me in the more recent semesters, they are so zoomed out with all these video meetings that e-version books are not exactly something they're interested in looking through. So e-version do appear to be available if you want them through the publisher. There is a 3rd edition out there that you might be able to find through Amazon or other places. I believe you probably get by okay with the 3rd edition if you do purchase that, but there may be some updates to that in the 4th edition that you're not going to get in the 3rd edition. I don't know how critical it will be. Some of the questions in your tests are going to come out of this text, and so you're probably going to want to try to get the 4th edition if you can. Finally, this book actually now is, I believe, a part of the public domain. As you can see, it was first published 115 years ago, and so you can find this book online. And if, again, you want to read it online, it's there for you. It's free online in different sites, but understand that you want to get the unabridged version, the full version, not an abridged version, so that you get the full book. Now, this is a classic. You may have read this book for an English class or a history class in high school. It's something that's pretty popularly assigned all over the United States, in fact. And it is about the experience of immigrants around the turn of the last century, and is a book written by a socialist, Upton Sinclair. Eventually, Sinclair ran for governor of California and as a socialist, as I recall. And when you read the book, you're going to figure out that he really wants you to become a socialist. Remember, this was published well over 100 years ago. And during that period of time, socialism was very popular, becoming more and more popular around the globe. And in fact, in the United States, socialism kind of reached its peak in popularity as far as votes go around this time and in the next decade or two after that. And so Sinclair wants you to see, not so much maybe that you become a socialist, but he wants you to understand the things that capitalism does to workers, particularly immigrant workers in this case, but all workers, lower class workers. And although this book was written 100 years ago, please understand as you read this that the experiences of the immigrant, at that time mostly from Europe, are not that much different from the experiences of immigrants to the United States today, particularly the immigrants that are coming up from the South. And so, although this is 100 years ago, understand that many of the working conditions that they're describing here continue to exist in somewhat different form, but nonetheless are still there and are still very, very troubling and problematic for immigrant workers today. So you'll read this book, actually, because of the fact that this is a shortened semester, you're going to read this over the first 4 weeks of the course. And so if you haven't got this book, get it and start reading it now. And you'll write a short paper, more on that later, and then you'll be done with that book. The syllabus is available to you in the course and Blackboard, and so I do encourage you to find that document, or rather download the syllabus and print it out. Always have a hard copy of your syllabus available, and be sure you understand everything that's in it, because this is sort of my contract with you as to what I'll be doing and what I expect of you. As the syllabus points out, this is how you're going to earn points, and we're going to go through each of these items one by one, so I'm not going to go through this list itself right at this moment. But altogether, actually, this is wrong. There are 655, not 665 total points. I thought I caught all of them, but I've still missed one spot because I made a few changes in the grading this semester. 655 total points, and you'll also have an opportunity to earn up to 20 extra bonus points if you want to during the course of the semester. Blackboard doesn't understand bonus points, and so it's going to tell you your grade is lower than it is if you don't take advantage of the bonus points, but don't worry about it. Blackboard doesn't assign your grade. I assigned your grade. So more on that in a few moments. Here's your grading scale. This is also in the syllabus. It's sort of the standard university grading scale, I believe, for a 600... See, again, I missed it again. 655 points. This bottom, I have it right, but not on the top. Total points for this course. Participation in attendance is the first way you earn points, and by this what I'm going to do, because we don't have any face-to-face meetings in this class, we don't have any Zoom sessions or any classroom sessions, and so what you're going to do is each week you're going to participate in the activities that I have spelled out for you in the weekly course content. And if you participate fully in those activities, keep up with all those assignments and do them on time, you're going to get all 50 points of your participation. Blackboard does let me know when you sign in, and so I can check to see how often and frequently you're working on things. But really, how I'm going to judge this is based upon whether or not you've completed all the assignments in the course during the course of the semester. Understand, if you've taken correspondence courses before, this is not a correspondence course. It's an online e-learning course. And so you don't have all semester to get around to doing the work. You really need to do all of your work in each week within the week and keep up with that steadily, because there are things that are going on currently, like discussion forums and things like this, where you need to be actively engaged in the class. And so keep in mind that you have flexibility as to when you do your work, but you should consider that flexibility to be within each week, not through the whole semester. So the next grading element are the discussion boards, and most of you probably have familiarity with discussion boards. If you don't, I think they're pretty intuitive. But what you'll do is you'll find each week that there's a link to a discussion board prompt. So on Sunday morning, new assignments for the next week become visible to you week by week by week every Sunday morning. And as you work your way through the various slides in the learning unit for the week, you're going to find the discussion board slide. And if you click on the link there, it'll take you to a prompt that is designated for that particular week. And so you respond to that prompt with a response that is at least 150 words long. And then later on, you're going to go back into the discussion boards and read your classmates' posts and respond to at least 2 of them. Now, those responses do not have to be 150 words long. Only your initial post should be a minimum of 150 words, but your responses should be substantial. So that means you're not just saying yeah or no, I agree, I disagree, but that you actually talk about what it is, that you're agreeing with or disagreeing with. So again, make it a substantial response, and you'll get full credit for your discussion board. So if you make your original post of 150 words or more, and then 2 responses to classmates' posts, you get the full 10 points for that week's discussion board. So discussion board, say next week, you have a discussion board already available to you in week 1, but let's say week 2 on Sunday morning, a new discussion board prompt is going to become available to you. After you've done the readings and after you've listened to the lectures is really the better time to do this. Then go in and respond to that discussion board prompt. You should do that by the following Sunday night. And then by Thursday after that, you should have gone back in and responded to at least 2 of your classmates' posts. So that's sort of what this spells out for you. And then I will grade these usually the weekend after that Thursday. So there's like a 11 or 12 day period from the time the discussion board prompt first becomes visible to the time when you should have responded to your classmates as well as made your own post. And then the weekend after that is generally when I will grade them. So it'll be a couple weeks after the discussion board opens before you see a grade for your work. There are 9 discussion boards, that's 1 a week, and 10 points each, so that's 90 points altogether. I do not have a discussion board set up in the last week of the course, and that's the reason some of the places say it's 665 points instead of 655 points, because I just missed taking that extra 10 points out there. So 9 discussion boards during the course of the semester. Every other week, starting in week 2, you will have a journal. It's called the E-Scrapbook journal. And what you want to do is keep an eye on what's going on in the news, either in newspapers, magazines, on the television, through media, whatever form you use. Just please don't just rely upon social media for your news. I hope you're not doing that. And if you do, I'd encourage you to start getting your news from a better variety of sources. But wherever you get your event, your news, your current event, something should be related to social welfare or civil rights or human rights. This could be really anything that you can imagine that might be connected to our topic. So it could be, about funding for education, let's say, or it could be about the campaign for human rights in the United Nations, or it could be something involving gender equality or pay equity, any number of different kinds of things like that. Civil rights, of course, all the stuff about anti-racism these days, all of these kinds of things, as well as the more traditional social welfare topics like public assistance and food stamps and Medicaid and Medicare and all those kinds of things. Okay, so you look for an article related to that. And what you're going to do is you're going to summarize the article. Don't copy and paste it. Put it in your own words, a brief summary of the article, what it says, and then give me a paragraph of a minimum of 200 words that gives me your reaction to that story or that news, what you personally feel about it. Now this, unlike the discussion board, which is open to everybody in the class, this is something that is just between you and me. So if you want to let your hair down a little bit and talk a little more openly about things, you can do that here. It will just be me reading them. And I will strive every week that you post a journal article to respond to your post personally, privately, whatever. With the discussion boards, from time to time, I may go in and make some comments on the discussion boards here and there, but that is generally something that I consider to be a discussion between you and your peers in a classroom. The journal is more between you and me. So if you want to think about this in terms of a regular classroom, the discussion board is the discussion that goes on in the classroom among you and your peers, whereas the journal is going to be kind of you grabbing a hold of me by the elbow and saying, Professor Galic, can I speak to you for a few minutes? I have something I want to talk to you about regarding the material. There are 5 journal opportunities during the semester. Again, these will turn up for you in your weekly course content, and they'll become visible as the date comes up for them. And using the tool is a very easy tool. It's very intuitive, I think. So how do you get your points for your discussion boards and your journals? There's an item in the course menu that's called Board and Journal Grading Guidelines, which really explain it fully. And in fact, it gives you an example of a journal post that I received some years ago that was just to the nines, exactly what I'm looking for in a journal post. So look at that and try to format your journals using that guideline. That's also, I believe, in week 1's weekly course content also. Remember again, cite your source. I want to know where you're getting the source from, a brief summary of the article for the journal, that is, and then your reaction, 200 words or more. For the jungle, once you've read that book, you're going to write a paper 3 to 4 pages long. Really, I'm going to do more of a word count than looking for a number of pages. So your paper should be 1,000 to 1,200 words long. That's not a lot. There are 3 pieces to this that you can see here. You want a brief summary of the book. You don't have to go into all the detail. I know this story very well, and so you don't have to tell me what happens in the book, but I want to just know that you've read the book. So a brief summary that shows me that you've read the book. what your reaction to it was, again, to the book itself, and then also identifying a couple concepts from the course that we've discussed that tie into the book or the book relates to. So 3 sections there, or three parts there that will give you full credit for this paper. You submit the paper as a Word attachment in the assignments link that will appear on the course menu. I don't believe it's visible yet, but probably on Monday it's going to become visible. And so you'll find it then. But 75 points for that. And you're going to turn that paper in. It's going to be due, let me look here. It is due on June the 13th. So that's the beginning of week 5. Now, the big point element for the semester is the term group research project. This is going to be a relatively small class, as is often the case in the summer. And so I think your groups are going to probably be 3 or 4 persons, and which makes it, the 3-person groups kind of make it a little awkward to divide this up, because what I'd like to do is have 4 member groups and 2 people researching one side of the discussion and 2 people researching the other side of the discussion and putting it all together in one paper. So your group is going to do one paper together. So working together is going to be very important, and more on that in a second. Because of the limited number of students in this course, it's very possible you're going to have 3-person groups, and I will probably assign 2 people to one position and tell the other person you have the entire other position. So this is sort of a pro-con project. And by that, I mean that I'm going to assign your group to a topic of some controversy in society relating to our clients generally. One part of your group is going to go out and find the research behind one view, the pro view, let's say, of that particular controversy. And the other part of your group is going to go out and find the material, the research related to the con or the no section of or part of that particular controversy. And so you'll bring your both parts together so that you have one paper that spells out pro and con positions. So for instance, let's say the topic was abortion. The question that you would be given in that event would be, should the United States allow abortions in the first trimester of a pregnancy? Now currently that is legal, but as you are probably aware, there are many, many efforts to try to get all of that overturned into, to make them illegal. I want to, in this particular case, I wouldn't want you to research this and try to convince the readers, yes, we should outlaw abortion, or no, we should not outlaw them, but rather the yes side would find out why everybody who believes that they should be outlawed, what the material is that they use, to support that position, and the no section or the con section would be looking for the material that the other side uses in that discussion. Put that all together in one paper in an intellectual way, something that's not emotional but is logical, so that the reader can look at the facts related to each side and make a decision for himself or herself. There are very clear instructions in the course menu that will become available when I assign those groups, and I think you'll see how to go about this at that time, but if you have questions, you can contact me. Now, a couple things about this, one of which is it's very, very, very important for you to be in regular contact with other members of your group throughout the semester until your project is turned in, which is going to be pretty late in the semester. And so you'll have a site in Blackboard where just you and your group mates have access. And right away, you should get in there, post your email address and the number. Let's say if you have text, I assume you have text, but a phone number or some way to contact you, as well as your email address. So that everybody in your group knows how to reach each other, because you have to get in and decide who's going to research what. And then as the time goes along, you're going to want to check back in and see how that's going. And as the time to submit your paper becomes near, you're going to want to get together and make sure that everybody's got everything done. A week ahead of time, everybody's written portion should be turned in to your group, not to me, but to the group, a week ahead of the deadline. And then someone is going to have to edit all of that, put it together in one paper that reads like one paper. I don't want 3 single papers or 4 papers strung together. I want one paper that blends all of this research together. So there's going to have to be an editor in the group. So you'll have to decide these things early in the semester. Don't wait until the last minute to decide who's going to do that. So communication is vital, and please be sure to respond to your group mates when they contact you. In order to encourage regular communication, when the groups are assigned, and that's going to be in the next week or two, you want to keep watching your email. I'm also going to give you 2 dates by which time you should have checked in on your Blackboard group's work site with each other. So I want to see evidence that you're communicating with each other. And there will be 2 different dates when I'm going to go in and check to see if you're communicating with each other and continuing to communicate. And those dates will be given to you in the email that announces the group assignments. Each check-in will be worth 20 points, so there's 40 points total for that. After you've submitted your paper, I'm going to take a clean copy of your paper and put it into a discussion board form. So everyone else in the class will then be able to read your paper and participate in a discussion board or discussion, just like the regular weekly discussion boards, on the topic that you've been assigned to study. So you have more discussion about it, and you will also be participating in that discussion board. I call it the peer reviews, and that's done over the last few weeks of the semester. So instead of a presentation, which we would probably do if we were getting together on a face-to-face basis, what you're doing is writing a paper that I will post for everyone to read, and you read each other's papers and comment on it that way. I will also this will not be public, but of course, when you turn your paper in, I'll read the paper, grade it, and make some comments on it and return it to you in your group site privately. So you'll have access to that as well. But the graded paper, of course, is not going to be put in the discussion board form. That'll be a clean copy. 2 tests during the semester. The first one's worth 40 points and the second one's worth 60 points. The first test will open in week 5. And the second one will open in week 10. Now, so remember, there are 11 weeks with the break. And so a couple things about the test. You don't have to go anywhere to take the test. You stay at home, you work on it in your computer, you just go into Blackboard, and the link to the test will be in your weekly course content. You can open the test and take it. Once you've opened the test, it will be timed. I think the first one is 90 minutes. The second one is, I think you have 2.5 hours for it. It's a lot of time. And there are multiple choice questions. And so I think the first one has 40 questions and the second one has 60. So it's not overwhelming. But once you open the test, you have to finish it. You can't close it and go back to it again. You have to, when you open the test, timer starts and you have to finish it, and if you haven't finished it within the allotted time, the test will close and that will be your score. Remember that. So it's to your advantage to have read the material before you take the test. If you don't like your first score, you can just go back in and take the test a second time, and the higher of your 2 scores will be the one that's recorded in the grade center. You have 11 days to take this test, so it will open, for instance, test 1 will open in week 5 on Thursday of week 5 and will stay open until Sunday, 2 Sundays later, so 11 days. And during that time then, you have all that period of time to go in and take the test, and you take it twice if you want. Once the test is closed, after the 11 days, then it's no longer available to you, so you need to take it during that window of time. And this will be true also for the second test, which will be actually cover the whole semester. So altogether, 100 points for testing. There will be 2 weeks where there is an extra discussion board. This will give you an opportunity to earn up to 20 bonus points for the semester. Again, over and above the 655 points total, not 665. I'm going to fix this before I post these slides in your class. Every week there will be PDF version of these lecture slides available to you in a course that you can open up and look at and download and do whatever you want with. And I'll fix this before I download them into your course. But in any event, twice you'll have an opportunity to earn bonus points on that. Blackboard will be confused by these bonus points, and so if you decide you're doing well enough and you don't want to bother with the second discussion board, the Grade Center is going to say you have 0 points for that activity because that's how many points you earned for it. If you don't do the discussion board, you get no points for it. That doesn't mean you got an F. It just means you earn no points there. And again, remember, I give the grade, Blackboard doesn't. So don't worry if Blackboard tells you you failed that assignment. That I understand what the 0 is about. It isn't that you failed it, it's that you didn't earn any points for the grading element. Every week, your course will open to announcements. Well, every time you open it, and any announcement I post in course will be sent to you in your university email address also. And so be sure to keep track of those things. These are things like me standing up at the beginning of class and saying, before we get going this week, I have something I need to tell you. And it's usually important information, so please be sure you check announcements. When you go into course, be sure you've seen them. The new ones should be on top. And if you get emails from me about the class, that's the announcement being emailed to you. The most important link in the course is the weekly course content. That is where you access all the materials that you need to have in order to do the work for the course each week. So if you click on weekly course content, you will see the current week, I think, on top, and all the previous weeks that we've had. And then every Sunday morning, a new week is going to open up in weekly course content. So by week 11, all the weekly course contents will be visible to you, but only until you get there will you see all of them, so that week by week, the new one will appear, and all previous ones. When you click on that link, that will then take you to a slide that I've written up to kind of introduce the topic to you. Well, here's what you're going to see. This is sort of what every week's weekly course content is going to look like. It'll start with an introductory panel written by me. Then there'll be a panel that tells you what the learning objectives are for the week. Then a panel identifying what your week's assignments are. These are the things you have to do during that week. Remember, you should do these things before the next week opens up, if possible. And then you're going to have recorded lectures. Now, most of my lectures are pretty short. There's a couple of them that are a little longer, but for the most part, I think, and when I say 1 to 5 lectures, when there are 4 or 5 lectures, they're really relatively short lectures. Pretty much you're going to find every week that the recorded lectures are going to be somewhere between 90 minutes to 2 hours. If you were in class with me, we had a class on campus together, you'd be sitting in class with me for 2 3/4 hours. So, this is your class time essentially with me. So consider that, that's not that much time really. Some weeks you're going to have less. There are a few weeks where you're going to be looking at videos, movies basically, and you have less recorded lectures to listen to during that time also. So anyway, you'll have the lectures that become visible to you. Then you'll have the link to the discussion boards. You're also going to find a link in the course menu for that discussion board, but I encourage you to access the discussion boards through the weekly course content so you don't miss anything. I've had some students go just directly to the discussion board link in the course menu, and a lot of times they miss the work they're supposed to be doing because they're not looking in weekly course content. You always need to check weekly course content every week. Then you have a journal link. Then there'll be a link that will give you the PDF versions of the slides from the week's lectures, and then another closing panel written by me. And on occasion, there's going to be a few other panes in there, like the tests will appear in your weekly course content and those kinds of things. But what you see here is pretty much what you should be finding every week. And so be sure you read through all of these slides each week. I think by now this slide's almost obsolete, and I shouldn't really have to explain this to any of you. I mean, when you don't have face-to-face interactions with people, you probably know this so well now that it's almost unnecessary for me to tell you this, but we take our cues in communicating not so much even with words that people say, but the way they say it, the tone of voice, the way their eyes are directed while they're saying things, what their body language spells out, all those kinds of things. All of those pieces go together to communicate with each other. So sarcasm, for instance, is something that sounds very serious, but you can tell kind of by the way a sarcastic comment is delivered that it's intended to be kind of ironic or funny. But you can't do that in written communications, so this includes online classes, discussion boards, and those things. We don't have all those body cues, those visual cues, the tones of voice and all that to really understand what's being said. So be aware of that when you write things and try to be clear, try to be sensitive to other people. Don't say things that derogate others. While I want you to be able to be honest with each other about things, by the same token, remember that the people that are reading your comments are real life people with feelings. Certainly never attack anyone. Avoid comments of any kind of a sexual nature. This is a class, and we need to be respectful of each other and to the sensitivities and experiences that each of us have had. Your first discussion board is going to be an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to each other, but you're not going to learn a whole lot about each other from that. And understand that our class is likely going to have individuals from different racial groups, different genders, and different perhaps sexual orientations and gender identities, different experiences, different age, all those kinds of things. And so when you make comments, keep that in mind and be aware to be respectful to all people. And then finally, not finally, but if someone is making comments that are just totally offensive and objectionable, please do let me know. I do monitor your discussion boards, but sometimes it's a couple of weeks before I get to see what somebody has written. And so if you find yourself being really deeply offended by something somebody's written, please contact me, let me know, and let me take a look at that. I think you all are sensitive enough and smart enough to know what to say and what not to say. And please, if someone does make a mistake, try to be forgiving of that mistake. So this week's discussion board, as I mentioned, 150 words or more, just introducing yourself, why you're in the course perhaps, what kinds of things do you like, what things interest you. I'm particularly interested in where you're going to go with your social work career, or if you have a social work major or what other major, because I know this is a GER course, so sometimes we get individuals from different majors, which also adds to very interesting content in this course. What are the things you're most interested in related to this topic? All sorts of kinds of things. If you would like, attach a photograph. It can be of yourself. It can be of others in your life. It can be of places you've been. It could be of your pet. That's not required. It's just something that can make the posts more interesting. But that's entirely up to you. Keep an eye on the news. Now, your first journal entry is going to be in week 2. You won't see it yet, but watch the news for current events related to social welfare, civil rights. Again, news about social programming and, by the legislature, state and federal budgets, local budgets, education issues, civil rights, racism, sexism, healthcare reform, immigration, same-sex marriage, gender identity, gay rights, and so on. Pick one of these topics, look that you find in the media. Again, remember, give me a citation. Let me know where the topic comes from, the title and a link to the source if it's online, or just tell me what your source is with the title of the article. Summarize the story briefly in your own words, and then write a separate paragraph or reaction of at least 200 words to that particular item. And I didn't assign any readings in the first week, and probably in this course this semester I should do that. But I'd encourage you, start reading The Jungle. But secondly, start reading Phyllis Day, because in weeks 2 and 3, you're going to read the first 6 chapters in that book. And so this is a good time to really start reading it now so that you can get ahead of the game. When you're reading chapter 1 in the Day Shield text, pay particular attention to the 9 American values that she spells out in chapter 1. Give some thought to what she says about that. These are things we're going to be returning to and talking about throughout the semester. So it's sort of a key foundational issue that you should really have a grasp about as you work your way through the semester. Okay, so that's all I have for you in this, and I hope that I haven't confused you with this lecture at all. And if you do have questions, you know how to reach me, and please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to, we'll be double timing it through this material, but looking forward to working together over the next 11 weeks, and I'm happy you're here with me. So more later. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye for now.